I caught my wife having an affair. I advised her to aid my best friend after his wife died. Later, she had an abortion because she didn't know who the father was. I'm not even sure where to begin. I'm not sure how I'm feeling right now or how to comprehend it all. I initially created this account to check if anyone else has experienced anything slightly similar to this. And unfortunately, it is not uncommon. I apologize in advance for this lengthy post. I simply needed to get it all out because I thought I was going nuts. I've met my wife. We'll call her Sue in college. We were both 18 at the time. We hit it off right away on our first date, and were exchanging I love yous within weeks of dating. She kind of pursued me, but I was grateful that she did. We shared our darkest concerns and secrets with one another, and when her father died during her final year of college, I was there for her throughout. Her father had pancreatic cancer, and when he was hospitalized, I spent nights with her so she wasn't alone. We made it through it, and that experience reinforced our friendship. She told me she had no idea what she would have done if I had not been there for her. She named me her soulmate. I knew I was going to marry this girl, and I proposed approximately 2 years after we graduated. My life couldn't have been much better at the moment. I married the girl of my dreams, got a well-paying job right after graduation, and both of our families loved us. My greatest friend, Dave, and I shared an unshakable, brotherly bond. Or so I thought. We'd known each other since 3rd grade, and he was like the brother I never had. He was also married, and had relocated with his wife approximately a year earlier, after she was offered a good position at a large legal firm. His wife perished in a vehicle accident, and it devastated him. He eventually relocated back to our hometown, but he was never the same. I tried to be there for him, but he refused to communicate with anyone. Nobody realized how much suffering he was in. So I asked my wife if she could talk with him. Given that she had also lost a loved one, Dave could be able to relate to someone who had gone through a similar experience. Yes, I now realize that this was a major mistake. We pay him visits every day. Even when I wasn't around, she would spend hours at his apartment. They went on treks together, watched movies, and did not invite me. I'm going to grab some lunch. Everything a couple does. Obviously, there was significantly more engagement than I had planned for them to have, and it made me uneasy. However, Dave fared significantly better as a result. It's vital to note that Dave and Sue had never liked each other before this happened. Sue had always felt he was a douche before he married his wife. Dave was in and out of relationships, and even after he met his deceased wife, he continued to cheat on her. As a result, Sue disliked him and wondered how I could be friends with someone with such low values. This contempt for Chris was partly what kept me unaware of what was to follow. As I previously stated, Sue and Dave grew inseparable to the point where she would ask him to events I had planned for us as a couple. Furthermore, she began to exhibit traits of what I now recognize as classic cheater conduct, such as being constantly on her phone and being increasingly aloof. Little to no intimacy and arriving home late. At this time, everything seemed strange, so I asked her who she was messaging. She said it was one of her girlfriends, and when I asked to hear what they were saying, she became furious and called me possessive. When I mentioned to Dave how uncomfortable their friendship was making me, he assured me that nothing was wrong and even accused me of not trusting him and my own wife. I was being gaslit. This went on until Sue decided to go out again. She stated she was going to her sister's for the weekend because she needed to get away from me because my accusations were driving her nuts. I was still skeptical and called her sister to see whether she was expecting Sue to visit. She affirmed that she was, but Sue had yet to come. Mind you, she left at 3 p.m. Her sister's home is around 4 hours distant from where we live. It was now 10 p.m. Something in the back of my mind told me to visit my friend's place, so I did. Sure enough, my wife's car is parked a few feet from my friend's house. At this time, it was obvious what was going on, and I hate to admit it, but I sobbed a lot. After a few minutes, I decided to go inside and verify whether this was really happening. I entered through the back door, which I knew would be open. I gently entered, and I could hear my wife moaning. I was shaking as I approached the door to his bedroom. I could see through the creak. My wife hunched over on his nightstand. I will never get that image out of my mind. I am literally crying as I write this. I pulled the door wide open, and they both froze and stared at me. It took everything I had not to beat the living hell out of Dave. I just walked away and got in my car. I could hear everyone scrambling, and my wife began yelling at me to stop so she could explain. I did not want to look at her. I'm not sure what I would have done, so I just drove away. I cried the entire way home, and they were both calling me constantly. I went to see one of my college buddies, and have been here for about a week now. I can't eat. I can't sleep and can't think about anything else. I notified my employer about what was going on, and they were gracious enough to offer me time off. I've been receiving phone calls from Dave and Sue, as well as our relatives. I informed my family that I was fine and would be back shortly, but I have not answered anyone else since. This hurts so much. I want to die. I wish to leave this world, but I am too cowardly to do it myself. I'm trying to be strong, but my willpower is fading. How can someone you love be so selfless? I do not know what to do. How can I cope with this? Please help me. Update 1. First and foremost, I'd like to express my gratitude for your encouragement and words of wisdom, which helped to make this difficult period in my life tolerable. Some of you shared your own tales, which helped me realize that this is something I can recover from. I had numerous thoughts about self-destructive behavior, but I believe I've moved on from that. Thank you very much for caring. Many of you asked for an update, so here it is. I am not sure what to make of that. There are many more of these kinds of emails, but I wanted to share this one because it confused me. I absolutely don't know who I married. What do you make of it? As several of you suggested, along with family and friends, I called a lawyer and met with her yesterday. I gave her all of the specifics, and she appears to be quite driven to help me get out of this financial hole as soon as possible. Given the circumstances, I still love my wife sincerely, but I'm not sure if things aren't so black and white when you're the one in this situation. I've also received a lot of messages from Dave, but I don't want to read them. I frequently flip between sadness and wrath, and I'm not sure how to feel right now. Should I try to check whether reconciliation is possible? Should I terminate this marriage now to avoid more heartbreak? My family knows everything. Sue apparently admitted what she had done to everyone. I have been away from everyone for more than 2 weeks, and still don't know what to do. The pain is still fresh. Every time I close my eyes, I see nothing but Sue and Dave together, and the sorrow doesn't seem to go away. I know most of you are urging to just divorce, and I agree. However, when you are the one in this circumstance, things are not so clear-cut. Given all the fresh information, I'd welcome any assistance, especially from those who have been here. Betrayed spouses and wayward behavior. How did you manage to get over this? Is this even possible? Right now, I'm almost convinced that I'll go forward with the divorce, but I just need reinforcement that I'm making the correct decision. I read all of your comments and felt compelled to add this. She told me, along with family and friends, that she has been living with her sister for the past 3 weeks. In one of her letters, she stated that she has only communicated with Dave once since I found out, and has gone full ANC with him. Her mother called me and apologized for her daughter's behavior over text. I didn't answer her calls. She stated that Sue is currently undergoing individual counseling. In another of her emails, she stated that she would never leave me for Dave. She feels for him, but she does not love him. Dave is meant to leave soon, but he is allegedly holding off until he chats with me face to face. There's a lot more I haven't mentioned, and I'm definitely leaving out some specifics. But some of my family and friends believe I should just talk to her and go on from there. That's where I am now. Update 2. So I took a break from Reddit and other social media platforms to concentrate on my marriage and the next measures I plan to take. I received a lot of advice from the lovely folks on site, as well as relatives and friends. But I wasn't sure what I really wanted. Much has transpired since then, so this could be a novel. Please bear with me. When I reflected on my marriage, I realized that it was mostly filled with happy memories. That is why I was so determined to find a cause to stay. However, when I started thinking about her adultery and how she and Dave gaslit me, I began to question my sanity. The only emotion I felt was rage. The deeper I looked, the angrier I became. I'll never forget how upset Sue got when I asked her where she'd been when she arrived home late, or Dave's disgusted expression when I asked him man to man if there was anything going on between him and my wife. The adultery was awful enough, but what made it worse was that it was with my best buddy. But the gaslighting. The fucking gaslighting. I'll never be over it. Okay, fair enough. I was played like a fool, but it takes a unique kind of person to lie so easily and effectively. I'm not sure how they were able to flip the switch like that. I recall one night when she arrived home late, approximately 2 days before I discovered. She was telling me how much she loved me, and how aroused she was while driving home thinking about me. I'm almost convinced she came home from Dave's because she was not wearing panties. She had intercourse with both of us, back to back. I totally kissed her. This entire incident made me feel like a wimp. How could I have let them treat me so badly? I feel very emasculated. The more I thought about it, the more I wanted to go to Dave's. But I couldn't. There is no justice for me, not in our legal system. They get to torture and mentally assault me. However, if I react, I will be imprisoned for an unknown period of time. I discussed this with my lawyer, who advised me not to make any silly decisions. Not only would I go to jail, but I would also endanger my divorce case. She advised I see a therapist, but I do not want to. I don't see the need. Sue continued to spam me with emails, which only made me angry. She continued to spout the same bullshit about how horrible her life would be without me. She even had the audacity to send me Bible texts about forgiveness, as if I were that important. Why do it? I started working again because I wanted to be busy. Being distracted has greatly improved my ability to cope, and I no longer drink as much as I used to. One day at work, one received a letter from Sue. I considered throwing it away but decided to read it. She discussed her individual counseling and how it helped her identify some underlying issues she was having with herself. The most significant of these was her low self-esteem. She confessed that the disparity in our appearance made her very self-conscious, and that deep down, she wished to be desired by someone other than me. According to her, her sister has always been considerably prettier than her, which contributes to her low self-esteem. She stated that, despite knowing I was attracted to her and that I made her feel beautiful, she wanted reinforcement from someone else. She apologized again, saying it wasn't an excuse, and that she was just looking for a method to ensure it never happened again. Should I decide to give her another chance? She then asked if we might try marriage counseling to sort things out. I still hadn't responded to anything she or her family had sent me at this point, so I just disregarded it. Anyway, I started the divorce proceedings, and the first order of business was to divide our finances. But I couldn't detach myself from her without her permission. We each have separate accounts as well as a joint savings account, and I am unable to withdraw what I am entitled to from it without her, despite the fact that I earn substantially more than she does, and have contributed the majority of the funds to that account. I'll probably have to divide it with her 50/50ths. So I just filed the divorce papers. She was served a few weeks ago, and the shit show began the same day. She arrived at my residence with the divorce paperwork in her hands. I'm not sure how she found out where I was. We just stared at each other for what seemed like forever, and all of the sorrow from that night returned. All of my feelings returned with fresh vigor. I nearly burst into tears again, but I managed to hold back. She appeared to have been crying as she ran towards me and attempted to hug me. I gently pushed her away, which made her hysterical. She began shouting, wondering why I was giving up on us so quickly, and if we could simply talk it out. At this time, I figured all I wanted was to get away from her. Looking at her made me feel a variety of emotions, so I wanted to get away before doing or saying anything. When I asked these questions, she began sobbing uncontrollably. She stated that she felt horrible even throughout the activities, but she didn't know how to quit since she was so involved in the affair that he didn't consider the ramifications or what she would lose. She claimed that the counseling forced him to surrender, because she was plainly not taking no for an answer, and was causing a spectacle. We entered my place, and I simply sat down and listened to what she had to say. She said that she would do anything to save our marriage. That she does not love Dave. She apologized. She stated that she conducted research on how we might proceed, and proposed a trial separation in this separation. She told me I could date anybody I wanted, but I should postpone the divorce and allow her the opportunity to rebuild our friendship and ultimately our marriage. She suggested a variety of other wacky ideas, including a one-sided open marriage in my favor, tried to show me stories about other couples who had survived infidelity, and even recommended that we move to a new state, or perhaps a foreign country. Just the two of us. That portion devastated me since we had talked about moving and establishing a family not long before all this nonsense happened. When she was finished, we sat there in quiet again, staring at each other. And then I asked her why. Why him? Why cheat on me with him, and then return just when I catch her? When I posed these questions, she began sobbing uncontrollably. She stated that she felt horrible even throughout the activities, but she didn't know how to quit since she was so involved in the affair that he didn't consider the ramifications or what she would lose. She claimed that the treatment helped her recognize that she would have cheated on me at some point. If not with Dave, then with someone else. This was allegedly due to the same underlying concerns, which she was ignorant of. I asked her if she loved Dave, and she assured me she didn't. That they haven't communicated since I left, and that she has no idea where he is now. That she only loved me, and would do anything to make amends for what she had done to us. I asked her if she had ever cheated on me before all of this, and she swore to her late father that this was the first and only time. I asked her whether anyone else knew about her and Dave. She hesitated and claimed it was only her sister, but she only learned about it a few days before I did, and she begged her to cease it, and come honest to me. You are the ones who advised that the sister, the newer version, is accurate. I also questioned her why she was begging, and why she hadn't just left to be with Dave. I questioned her whether she was simply doing this because she believed it was the proper thing to do. rather than because she wanted to be with me. She said that she was doing it because she loves me and understands she has made some terrible decisions. We talked for a long time, and she cried a lot, but not for me. I had sobbed enough when I initially found out, and I had no more tears to weep about this. Then I asked her if there was anything else she wanted to tell me, or if there was anything she was keeping hidden. She began sobbing again, and pleaded with me not to be upset. I became really nervous when she stated that. She started crying for a little before I told her to just say it, because she was making me uncomfortable. Then it came out. She stated she found out she was pregnant shortly after I left, and had an abortion, because she didn't know who the father was. She explained that if it turned out to be Dave's, there would be no chance for reconciliation. Therefore, she felt compelled to do it. I couldn't believe what I heard. I was shocked, and she begged me even more not to let this be the end of our relationship. I just became numb. I asked her to leave, but she begged me to stay, saying we needed to talk. All of this pleading was just annoying. In addition, I recently learned some news. I inquired how far along she was when she discovered she was pregnant, and she responded a few weeks. Then it struck me. Wait, you stated in an email that you only began having sex with Dave approximately a week before I found out. Was this a lie? She nodded. She fucking nodded. She said that she merely said that to avoid hurting me with the details, and to minimize the situation. She said that it had been physical for less than a month. She attempted to console me, but I pushed her away. I asked her to go and never return. She tried to say anything, but I simply yelled at her to go. She offered if we could chat again once I'd processed everything, and I declined. I informed her that I had obtained a job in another state, and would be leaving as soon as the divorce proceedings in our state began. There is a 2-month cooling-off period after you file. I had already decided to do this, and was just about to resign from my current work. I had already handed my supervisor notice at that point. When she heard this, she started crying and pleading like she often did. I told her to leave or I'd contact the cops. She grudgingly left, and I lay on the floor, wondering what had gone wrong. How did my marriage get this far in such a short time? I simply couldn't grasp it. I was vaguely aware of the divorce prior to our conversation. I felt more certain of my decision than ever before. I rejected Suzanne's request for contact again. However, this happened a few days ago. On Thursday, my mother called and told me Sue was in the hospital. She was apparently hospitalized due to a drug overdose. Everything felt like a nightmare. I still don't know how to comprehend it all. Why is this happening? Sue seemed fine when I saw her in the hospital, but she had been admitted to a psychiatric unit. That's where things are right now. I still don't understand why she would do this. When I went to see her, she was sleeping. It aches because I still adore her, and right now, I'm just glad she's okay. I have not been thinking about the divorce, given what is happening right now. How should I proceed? There are definitely a lot of crucial facts I'm leaving out, but including them would make this painfully long. I just need recommendations for what I should do next. Edit. I didn't get to respond to most of your remarks, so please join in. I could really use this advice. Thank you, everyone. Update 3. I hoped my last update would be my final post about this subject, yet here I am again. It's been roughly 8 months since my life became a shit show. And sadly for me, things are only getting worse. I won't go into detail, but I hope to provide enough information to elicit constructive input from you on here. You have been significantly more helpful than you realize. Sue was in a severe mental state when I last blogged, but she improved after some therapy. I felt so awful for her, but I knew I couldn't remain. I know many others have been through similar experiences, but I know myself. Had I stayed, I'd be doing myself and her more harm than good. Even after a few years, I'll never forget it, and will most likely carry some bitterness. We agreed to divorce, but she wanted us to be in touch, even if it was little. We divorced approximately a month ago, and the procedure was relatively simple. I relocated to the West Coast to start anew, and things were finally looking up for me. But then I received another phone call regarding Sue from her sister. Long story short, Sue had a stroke. She is almost entirely immobilized on the left side of her body, and has difficulty speaking. I can't even express how upsetting that was to hear, let alone how sad I felt when I went to see her. She didn't look like the person I knew, and she always cried when she saw me. One of the most upsetting aspects of this is that I can't help but believe it's all my fault. It happened to her. People tell me it's not, but I think it is. Even if her closest family claims it is not my fault, I sense hatred from them any time I communicate with them. When her aunt saw me, she cursed me out in front of everyone, and everyone became silent. They simply asked me to leave it alone and move on with my life. As much as I want to go on, knowing how all of this garbage turned out stings. I haven't spoken to Sue since she had the stroke, and her family refuses to let me see her because I reportedly caused her worry. I don't even know the complete specifics because I don't have the authority to know. Now, I just can't seem to get a break. I suppose. Here's the next story. It began with shame. I'll never forget that Friday night. I was not anticipating anything out of the usual. Just a casual meal at Mark and Jessica's house with the typical crew. A few cocktails and nice cuisine. But Emily, my wife, my wretched wife, felt that night was the best opportunity to tear me apart in front of everyone. And it's not simply a fun jab. Not the type of taunting couples engage in, while there is still love behind the remarks. No, it was something different. Something nasty and harsh. I recall her leaning back in her chair, swirling the wine in her glass, her gaze sweeping over me as if I were some kind of joke. Ethan, do you remember when you tried to fix the sink? God, I've never seen anybody so lost. I had to hire a plumber because I was concerned he might flood the kitchen. Laughter. Everyone laughed. Even Mark, who once set fire to his own grill because he didn't know how to turn off the gas, laughed at me. I tried to chuckle, but my jaw felt tight. Yeah, I remember the golden times. But she wasn't finished. She was never finished. To be honest, I sometimes feel as if I have 3 children rather than 2. She groaned and shook her head. Ethan is here. I swear he can't even change a light bulb without asking me for assistance. Jessica squirmed uneasily, sensing the tension, but Emily continued. Oh, don't get me started on how predictable he's become. God, he used to be so entertaining. Now it's simply work, sleep, and watching the same pointless shows over and over. Where is the excitement? Where is the guy I married? I genuinely laughed since I had no idea what I was meant to do. Because the scenario had a tantrum like a toddler. Now I'm letting it slip. I took another sip of my drink and waited for the night to end. Inside, however, something broke. I did not speak on the way home. Did not look at her. Just drove. She did not appear to care. She scrolled through her phone, singing to herself as if nothing had happened. The next morning, she called me as if everything was fine. As if she hadn't just ripped my spine apart in front of our buddies. Hello, babe. I'm going to get brunch with Kelly. You want me to bring you something? I don't even recall what I said. Something brief and pointless. But I remember when I hung up. I stood in the kitchen, coffee in hand, looking at the wall. And for the first time in our marriage, I asked myself a question I never expected. What if she no longer loves me? Then came the second question. That one made my stomach turn. What if there is someone else? I did not want to believe it. I actually didn't. There was something about the way she stared at me last night. The revulsion and ennui made me realize that something was severely wrong. I was not going to let it slip. Not this time. I was not going to let it slip. Not this time. That morning, as Emily walked out the door without a care in the world, I sat at the kitchen table and stared at my phone. I could have disregarded the feeling and convinced myself I was just being paranoid. But I could not. Not after last night. Not after how she laughed at me as if I were nothing. So I tried something I'd never done before. I checked our phone records. It wasn't even difficult. Our account was shared with a few taps, and I saw a pattern, a number that appeared repeatedly. Late in the night, early in the morning, hours of calls and messages. I copied the number and searched it. No name, no stored contact. But then I saw something that made my hands become ice cold. The number belonged to a work acquaintance, someone I knew or had met. Nathan. Nathan. Carter. I almost laughed at the ridiculousness of it. Nathaniel Carter. She complained that the guy from her office was irritating. She rolled her eyes every time his name came up in conversation. That. Nathan. I sat there. My blood was rushing to my ears as I stared at the number, as if it could transform into someone else's if I gazed at it long enough. But it did not. Remained the same. Someone is ridiculing me. I didn't confront her immediately. No, I needed more, because if I was wrong, if this was truly harmless, I was not going to accuse my wife without proof. So, I waited. That night, she arrived home late. Another work-related issue. She hardly looked at me as she walked in. Just put her suitcase on the counter and moaned loudly, as if her long, stressful day was somehow my responsibility. She murmured, "I'm going to shower," and disappeared down the hall. The moment I heard the water running, I grabbed her phone. Locked? Of course. But I knew her password. She had never changed it. She never thought she needed to. The messages were there. There are hundreds of them. As I browsed, my gut tightened with each line. Emily, I cannot stop thinking about last night. Nathan, I am neither. When will I see you again, Emily? Soon. I will make up an excuse. Nathan, you are better. I need you. I paused. Put your phone down. I stared at the wall, breathing heavily through my nose. I'm not sure how long. I sat there, trying to grasp the fact that the lady I'd made my life with was lying to me. Every day. That she was out there screwing around while I was at home with our children. I trust her. The shower turned off. I left her phone precisely where I found it and went to the kitchen. I'm gripping the edge of the counter to keep from losing it. When she came out, her hair damp and wearing the big shirt she typically wore to bed, she hardly looked at me. "What?" she asked, lifting her brow. I feigned a grin because I was not about to approach her yet. Now, I wanted to know how far her falsehoods went. "Nothing," I said. "Just thinking about how fortunate I am. For the first time in our marriage, I lied to her. For the first time in our marriage, I lied to her, and she had no idea." Emily smirked at my comments, but she didn't glance at me as she walked away. She simply snatched her phone from the counter. The same phone that I recently went through. She took the same phone that carried every horrible secret she believed she was keeping from me, and walked into the bedroom, as if nothing had occurred. As if she hadn't betrayed me in the worst possible way. I stood there, grasping the counter so tightly that my fingers hurt, watching her disappear down the corridor. And at that time, I made a decision. I wasn't just going to face her. I was not going to shout, plead for an explanation, or insist that she tell me why. No. That is what she expected. Instead, I intended to dismantle her lies from the inside out. The first trap. The next morning, I behaved entirely normally. I kissed her on the cheek before she departed. I told her to have a good day at work, and even included a little love you just to sell it. She barely answered. I hummed a little before walking out the door, texting the entire way. Him. I had a strategy, but I needed to be prudent. Emily was thoughtless, but not dumb. If I pushed too hard or too rapidly, she'd notice. I needed her to believe I was still blind, so I started small. I texted her about noon. "Me? Hello, babe. Just thinking about you. What time do you expect to be home?" 10 minutes elapsed before she responded. "Emily. Ugh. It was a long day. Probably late." Another meeting was added as if I knew exactly where she would be. Nathan was taking a personal day today. I checked, and he wasn't at work, so she wasn't staying late for a meeting. She was going to meet him, so I sent another message. "Me? Damn. That's not good. Perhaps I'll swing by with some coffee. I thought it could brighten you up." I envisioned her expression as she read the text. The panic and fast excuses were developing in her mind. She took a while to respond. This time, nearly 15 minutes apart. Then, "Emily. That's quite sweet. But I'll be doing back-to-back activities for the next few hours. I won't even have time to drink at lull. Perhaps tomorrow. Back-to-back stuff." She felt I was incredibly stupid. I grinned at my phone since I didn't intend to bring her coffee. No, it was not the plan. I was going to follow her, catching her in the act. That evening, I drove to the place where I had tracked her phone. She had no idea I had access to it, but she never felt obligated to hide it. This was a hotel. Not a luxurious one, nor a derelict one. On the other side of town, there is a standard hotel with nothing exceptional to offer. Her automobile was already there, so was his. I sat in my car, holding the steering wheel and staring at the two vehicles parked side by side. I felt my heartbeat in my mouth, hands, and skull. I could have entered right then and there. They may have stormed up to the front desk. They demanded a room number, caught them in the act. But that would be too simple. And I wanted her to feel how I felt. I wanted her to crumble. So instead, I snapped a photo. Two cars side by side in the parking lot of a motel she had no business visiting. Then I texted her. "Me. Hello, babe. I just wanted to check in. How was the meeting?" I gazed at the hotel's entryway. Waiting. Counting the seconds. And then she did exactly what I expected. She lied. "Emily. Still going. Arg. I am fatigued. It'll probably be another hour at least. I miss you." I laughed. Actually chuckled since she had no idea I was right outside. I took another photo. This time, there is a hotel sign. Then, while still watching the entryway, I sent one final SMS. "Me. That's strange, because I'm gazing at your automobile right now in front of a hotel." I saw her the second I pushed the submit button. The door swung wide, revealing Emily in a tight dress. She hadn't left her residence this morning. We are walking out of the hotel with him. Nathan was right next to her. Way too close. His hand brushed against hers. They were laughing over something. She appeared happy until she checked her phone. Until she noticed my message. She froze. I stepped out of the car, and when her eyes met mine, I saw genuine, palpable panic. I started walking towards her. She began backing away. "Nathan. That coward, he was already stepping back. He seems like he is about to run." He might try to get in his car and leave Emily to cope with things on her own. I smiled, since the real fun was about to start. Emily's face quickly lost its color, which was almost funny. She laughed for a split second, living in her own fantasy world, where she could lie to me without repercussions. The next moment, she was immobilized, staring at me like a deer about to be hit by a truck. Nathan, on the other hand, acted like he was preparing to flee, as if I were a threat. He needed to get away. I continued walking, slow and controlled. I was not here to throw punches. I wasn't here to cause a scene. Not yet, anyhow. But I wanted her to experience this moment. I wanted her to feel every ounce of anxiety that was likely suffocating her right now. I halted a few steps away. Allow the silence to stretch. Nathan cleared his throat and stepped back another inch. Don't. I cut him off. I never took my eyes off Emily. Please don't. She blinked, her mouth expanding slightly before closing again. Good. Let her struggle. Allow her to figure out what to say. I held up my phone and showed her the picture. They parked their cars side by side and swiped to the next one. The hotel sign, followed by the next. Her text. Lying to me in real time. Are you going to tell me? I said in a calm voice. Steady, too calm for what was going on. How long have you been screwing him? She breathed hard. Ethan, Nathan took another step back. Emily gave him a brief scowl, as if she was upset that he was backing away rather than supporting her. I nearly laughed. Did she honestly believe this loser would stand here and defend her? She returned my gaze, eyes wide, phony innocence smeared across her face. It's not as you think. Oh. I tilted my head. So what is it, Emily? Because I believe you are cheating on me. I believe you are lying to me every day as I care for our children. Pay the bills. I'll love you like an idiot while you're around. I motioned to Nathan, sneak into hotels like a cheap cliché. She flinched. I noticed it for a fleeting second. She truly appeared guilty. But then she did something that nearly made me lose it. She rolled her eyes, as if I were overreacting. As if I were the one making this greater than it was. Jesus and Ethan. She huffed. Do you know how crazy you seem right now? Crazy. She called me crazy. I took a step closer and lowered my voice. Say it again. She shifted, arms crossed across her chest, and I noticed her mask slide. You are overreacting. She mumbled. You don't even understand what's going on. I gave a short, bitter laugh. Then educate me, Emily. Please explain what I misunderstood about you and Nathan going off to a hotel together and lying to my face about it. Silence. Nathan shuffled his feet like a miserable worm. Perhaps we should. Emily turned on him so quickly, it was almost comical. Say nothing. Nathan. Oh, now she was upset with him. Wow. I wondered, shaking my head. So this is how it goes. You get caught, and suddenly it's his fault. She clenched her jaw. I did not say that. But you are thinking it, I said. I see it in your eyes. You're mad at him for not stepping up, not defending you, and not coming up with a reason to make this all go away. I leaned in a little, but there is no excuse. Emily. You did it. You wrecked it. And you don't have the decency to admit it. Her mouth opened again, but nothing came out because she didn't have anything. I looked at Nathan, who was still hanging on the curb as if he was trying to disappear. You. I said, causing him to jump. Do you love her? His eyes expanded. What? This is an easy question. I motioned to Emily, who was now staring at me as if she wanted me to stop speaking. You've been sneaking around with a married woman and damaging a family. So I have to believe there's a reason. Do you love her? Nathan gulped hard. I mean, I care for her, but I simply nodded. I get it. Then to Emily. That's the person you threw everything away for. A guy who cannot even declare he loves you. Her expression twisted. But I wasn't finished. You know what the funny part is? I said this while pocketing my phone. I knew something was wrong. I had been feeling it for weeks, but I foolishly believed that we might perhaps repair it. Maybe if I tried harder. If I did more, if I paid more attention to you, you'd return to me. I gave a dry laugh. But were you already gone? She looked away, and that was my response. I inhaled deeply, allowing it to settle inside me. The truth. The cold, nasty reality. Then I stepped back. I will send you the divorce paperwork, I replied plainly. Her head snapped upward. Ethan, please wait. No. I shut her off. You are not allowed to plead right now. You can't pretend this is a mistake. You had a choice, and you made it. So you'll have to live with it. She stared at me. Something wild and urgent was flaring in her eyes. But I was already finished. I turned and walked away. I got into my car, and for the first time in years, I felt free. That I sat in my car, holding the steering wheel and looking at my phone. Emily had not called, had not texted, Hadn't even attempted to justify herself. That explained all I needed to know. The entire drive home. My mind raced with all I wanted to tell her. Every insult, every stinging truth I could throw in her direction. But when I came into the driveway, I saw the house we had built together. The location where we reared our children, celebrated birthdays, and spent holidays. I had an unpleasant realization. This wasn't only about me. I could walk away from her. I could turn every memory of our marriage to ashes. But our children, they could not. Emily had ruined our marriage, but I still needed to co-parent with her. I still needed to see her face at soccer games, school performances, and birthdays. Regardless of what happens next, she wasn't simply my ex-wife in the making. She was still their mother. And that's what kept me from venting my rage on the house. Because, believe me, I wanted to. I wanted to dump her garbage on the lawn. I wanted to tear our wedding photos from the wall and break them into 1,000 pieces. I wanted to make sure she returned home to a conflict. But instead, I went indoors. Took a big breath and devised a plan. Emily eventually breaks. I did not hear from her that night. Not one word. No apologies. There was no urgent attempt to win me back. Nothing. And the quiet was louder than any excuse she could think of. I awoke the next morning to Emily's front door being unlocked. She walked in as if she lived here, as if she still had the right to enter this house after what she had done. I stayed in the kitchen, arms folded, and waited. She noticed me and froze. She looked like hell. Smudged mascara. Messy hair. Same clothes as the night before. I could smell the lies coming. She gulped hard. "Ethan, we need to chat." I leaned against the counter and watched her. "Yeah, what is this about?" She exhaled and dropped her luggage on the table. "Look, She hesitated, as if she was trying to figure out how to spin this. Then she sighed deeply and rubbed her temples. "I made an error." I laughed, a hearty chuckle, because that was the best she could come up with. "An error," I repeated. "What part?" "Emily is lying to my face, screwing around behind my back. Or disgrace me in front of our friends while you were having a damn affair." She winced but moved onward. I was caught up in something." "Okay. It was not supposed to mean anything." "Oh, do not do that." My tone was sharp enough to make her cringe. "Don't stand here pretending it was inconsequential." When I saw the texts, I noticed them. "Emily, you weren't simply screwing him. You were making plans and excuses to meet him." Her lips formed a tiny line. "It was not serious." "So you weren't leaving me?" I challenged. Silence. So there it was. She paused for a bit too long. "You were." I said this while feeling my stomach drop. "Were you really going to leave me for him?" "No," she replied hastily. "Too quick." "I don't know, okay? It was exciting, Ethan. It was different." She raked her hand through her hair, fury spilling into her words. "I'm not sure how to describe it to you." "You do not have to." I stood up straight because I didn't care. It threw her off. I noticed a glimmer of astonishment in her eyes. "You think I'd like to sit here and listen to you excuse it?" I scoffed. "Do you think I want to hear you complain about how I wasn't enough as you slipped around like a coward?" I shake my head. "No. I do not care. I am done." Her expression twitched. "Ethan, I've already called a lawyer." I did not even let her finish. "We will work out custody. But this." I gestured between us. "This is over." And that's when she finally broke. Because, up until that point, I don't think she believed I would leave. I believe she assumed I'd fight for her. That I'd scream, beg, and make this tougher than it had to be. That I would still want her despite everything. But I did not. And this terrified her. Her breath caught. "Ethan, please." I walked by her. Did not even look at her. And that hurt her more than anything I could have said. Emily was not used to losing. She was used to manipulating circumstances, twisting words, and appearing innocent when it suited her. For years, I allowed her. I let her guide discussions, rewrite history, and make me question myself. But not this time. This time I was finished. She stood in the kitchen, watching me leave. And for the first time since the nightmare began, I noticed genuine terror in her eyes. Not guilty, not regret. Fear. Because she noticed I wasn't playing her game anymore. "Ethan, please wait." Her voice broke slightly as she turned to follow me. "Please, just listen for a second." I kept walking, heading toward the bedroom, because I'd had enough of her wasting my time. "Ethan." She grabbed my arm. I paused and carefully turned my head. She'd never gripped me like that before. "I am not angry. Not in a desperate situation." She glanced up at me, her eyes wide, looking for any indication of the old Ethan. The one who would have softened and caved if Ethan hadn't died. I got my arm free. "What?" Her mouth quivered a little. "Are you really going to do this? Just like that?" I stared at her. "Did you do this?" Not me. She shook her head and ran her hand through her knotted hair. Ethan? I. She paused, as if she couldn't find the perfect words. Like, for the first time in her life, she didn't have a script. Could allow her to choke on her own lies. I wasn't thinking, she finally admitted. It just happened. I inhaled slowly and clenched my jaw. Emily claimed that if you said this was a mistake again, she would swear to God it was. I became sucked into something unreal and didn't know how to get out of it. Didn't you want to stop it? Her mouth slammed shut. I made a hesitant step closer, pushing her to stare directly at me. You had every opportunity to stop Emily. Every night you came home to me, every time you gazed at our children, and every time you lied to me. I shake my head. You were not caught up in anything. You made a choice. Over and over again. Her chest lifted and sank quickly. I could see her losing her head, seeking an escape. There's a way to twist this, but there wasn't one. Not this time. She gulped hard. Ethan, I do not want to lose our family. I stared at her, cold and quiet. Then you should not have tossed it away. Tears welled in her eyes, and for a brief moment, I almost felt something. But then I remembered the passage. The lies. She laughed at me in front of our friends as she was screwing another person, and any pity I had left vanished in an instant. I needed you to leave, I explained. Her eyes expanded. What? I pointed to the door. Get out, Ethan? No. My voice was definitive. You can't stand here and cry right now. You can't pretend to care after what you've done. She drew a hesitant breath. This is also my house. Not anymore. Her nostrils flared. You cannot merely. I can. I cut in. And I will. I already consulted with a lawyer. You will be served with divorce papers this week. You will not be staying here until we have finalized the custody arrangements. Tears streamed down her face. Where am I meant to go? I tilted my head and gave her a long, hard stare. Then I smirked. The first genuine smirk I'd felt in weeks. Why not call Nathan? I said. See if he still wants you now that you are free. Her face was contorted and horrified, and I saw it for the first time since it all began. The entire weight of her actions finally hit her. I turned. I walked to the front door and opened it. Then I moved back, looked at her and waited for a second. She just stood there, staring at the open door, as if she couldn't believe this was happening. But it was. And I wasn't giving her an option. Finally, with a tight breath, she took her bag from the table and walked out. I closed the door behind her and locked it. Then I stood there in the solitude of my home. She would never live in that house again. And for the first time since the nightmare began, I felt as if I could finally breathe. The silence within the house was overwhelming. Emily was gone for the first time since the events unfolded. She wasn't lurking close, attempting to manipulate the narrative. She was not moaning or making excuses, pretending she hadn't just broken our family up. She was just gone, and I should have been relieved. I should have felt free. But this is the truth. The second the door closed, the full weight of it all struck me. My marriage was over. The woman I made a life with. The mother of my children. The person I previously trusted the most was no longer mine. She had never really been. Not the way I expected. I ran my hands down my face. Exhale slowly, then I headed to work. The aftermath begins. I was not foolish. I knew Emily was not going to walk away quietly. A woman like her. A woman who was used to having her way. Controlling the story. She played the victim when it suited her. She was not done. Definitely not. So, before she could begin weaving her sad version of events, I moved ahead of her. I texted Mark and Jessica first. Me, hey. Just a heads up. Emily and I are finished. She was cheating. I saw her yesterday night. Jessica's response arrived very instantly. Jessica, are you serious? I am dead serious. Jessica, oh my God. Jessica. Ethan, I'm really sorry. We had no idea. Mark replied a few minutes later. Mark, holy shit. She actually did that asterisk. She did. And I have proof. And that's all it took, because people speak. By the end of the day, half of our social circle was aware. And Emily. She despised losing control of the plot. That evening, my phone began to fly up, and I discovered this personally. Emily had a breakdown. Initially, it was text. Emily. Ethan, please stop telling everyone. Emily, could we just talk? It's just us. Emily, you are making things worse than they need to be. When I ignored her, the calls began. I let them go to voicemail. But then she showed up. It was later than 10 p.m. I heard a knock. Frantic, sharp, desperate. I knew it was her. I could have ignored it. I could have left her out there. Allow her to experience the repercussions of her own behavior. But I wanted to see her face. I wanted to look her in the eyes and see if she still had the audacity to try gaslighting me after everything. So I opened the door to see her in a full mess. Mascara smudged beneath her eyes, her hair twisted, and her entire body exuded stress. "Ethan? What the hell is wrong with you?" she hissed. "Did you tell everyone?" I leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed, perfectly calm. I spoke the truth. Her eyes blazed. "That is not your truth to share." I gave a brief, harsh laugh. "Are you genuinely listening to yourself right now?" She took a big breath and tried to collect herself. "Ethan, please. You don't need to do this. Let's speak privately." I shake my head. "No, Emily. You lose control of the discourse." Her jaw stiffened. "This is not fair." That nearly broke my heart. Almost let out a bitter, uncontrollable laugh. "Not fair," I repeated. "Emily, you cheated on me. You lied to me. You made me feel crazy. When I started noticing something was wrong. And now you want to complain about fairness?" Her lips twitched. "I made an error." Exhaled gently. "No. You made a choice." Tears welled in her eyes. "But I didn't care anymore." She stretched out as if to grasp my arm, but I moved aside. "Ethan, please," she whispered. "I do not want to lose you." I stared at her. And at that point, I had a realization. She was not upset because she loved me. She was not battling for me. She was battling for control. Emily did not want me back. She simply didn't want to lose. And this made walking away even simpler. "I've already told you." I spoke, my voice chilly and firm. "You lost me the moment you selected him." Then I shut the door in her face, locked it, put my phone on silent mode, and slept like a baby for the first time in years. That I awoke to complete silence. Emily did not send any text messages. No missed calls. No frantic knocks on my door. And for the first time in weeks, I felt light. But I was not foolish. I knew Emily. I understood how her thinking worked, how she used circumstances to make herself the victim. She was not done. She was simply regrouping. And I was correct. By lunchtime, my phone had buzzed with a text from Mark. "Mark? Hey, I just wanted to give you a heads up. Emily has been talking." "Me? What does she say?" "Mark, that it wasn't actually cheating, that you were neglecting her. And she became involved in something, but it was not serious. And now you are overreacting." I laughed, really laughed. Because that's exactly what she was doing. Damage control. Emily was not the sort to take responsibility. No, she was twisting the story, building the groundwork so that when people looked back, she wouldn't be viewed as the villain. She sought sympathy. She wanted others to distrust me. I wasn't going to let it happen. The ultimate move. I could have allowed her to speak freely. They could have let her dig her own grave. But I wanted to make sure there was no turning back from this. So I made one final move. I went to her parents' house. Emily's parents loved me. They always have. They knew me before they knew her. Long before Emily and I met, they were family and friends together. And, while I wasn't stupid enough to believe they'd support me over their own children, I knew one thing for certain. They despised liars. I knocked on the door. And when Emily's mother, Diane, opened it, her face sank immediately. "Ethan," she replied gently. "I was about to call you." I strolled inside, knowing just what to expect. Emily had beaten me here. Sure enough, she was seated in the living room, curled up on the couch, phony tears in her eyes, portraying the ideal sad wife. Her father, Richard, sat across from her, arms crossed and face set in a deep frown. He was not buying her act. Not entirely. Emily turned to see me, her eyes widening slightly. She didn't expect me to show up. "Good day, Ethan," she muttered, sniffling. I did not let her finish. I took out my phone, opened the images, and laid it on the coffee table. Her parents leaned forward. Their daughter's automobile. Nathan's automobile. The hotel. The texts. Everything. Diane took in a sharp gasp. Richard's expression clouded. "Emily." She became utterly still. "Do not let her deceive you." I said it quietly but firmly. "I do not care what she has been telling you. This is true." Silence. Emily gulped hard. "Ethan." Richard sprang up so quickly that his chair scratched against the floor. "Emily," he remarked harshly. "You informed us that he was making this up." Her face had lost its color. "Dad," I knew his voice was icy. "Never lie to me again." And with that, her entire defense fell. Diane covered her mouth, her eyes filled with disappointment. "How could you do it?" she whispered. Emily turned to face me. Panic surged over her face. "Ethan, please. We can discuss this confidentially." "There's nothing left to discuss," I replied simply. "I just wanted to make sure your folks knew the truth before you started twisting it." Her eyes flashed with rage because it was checkmate. She knew it. I knew it. Most significantly, her parents were aware of the situation. I turned to leave, but Richard stopped me with his hand on my shoulder. "You did not deserve this," he said. I gave him a slight nod. "I understand." With that, I walked out. The final goodbye. Emily sent me one final text that night. "Emily, I hope you are happy. You have wrecked my relationship with my parents. You turned everybody against me." I glanced at it for a long time before responding. "Me? No, Emily. You did it all by yourself." Then I blocked her number. I turned off my phone and moved on. For the first time in years, I felt weightless. No more second guessing. No more walking on eggshells. No more worrying if the lady I loved was lying to me. Emily was gone. I assumed that would be the end of it. That I blocked her phone number and made it obvious that there was no going back. She had finally let it go. I underestimated Emily because she wasn't simply losing me. She was losing control. And this was something she would never tolerate. The desperate play. A week passed, followed by another. I remained quiet, concentrating on the divorce and my children. They were young. They were too little to understand why their mother wasn't around as much, and I refused to show them the mess she had made. Emily, on the other hand, went in a downward spiral. I knew because she showed up first. It was small things. I'd come out of work and saw her car parked down the street. I took the kids to the park, and she just happened to be present, sitting on a bench, watching. Then she became bolder. One night, around midnight, I heard a loud, relentless knock. Desperate. I already knew who it was. I grumbled, rolled out of bed, and approached the door. Emily stood barefoot on my porch. Her hair was a tangle, and her eyes were red-rimmed. She looked like she hadn't slept for days. "Ethan," she muttered. "Please." I looked at her, unimpressed. "What the hell are you doing here?" She took a step closer, reaching out as if to touch me. I'm not sure how to accomplish this without you." I let out a bitter, humorless laugh. "You should have thought about it before you began messing around behind my back." Her lips pulled together, and for a split second, I saw something horrible in her gaze. Anger. She despised the fact that I wasn't breaking down and letting her back in. She sniffled and switched tactics. "Ethan, I made an error." "Don't call it that." I leaned against the doorframe and crossed my arms. "You can't come here crying in the middle of the night and expect me to forget what you did." She gulped hard. "But I do adore you." "No, you do not," I replied simply. "You simply don't want to be alone." Her breath caught. But I wasn't finished. "Emily, you lied to me for months. You humiliated me and laughed at me while you sneaked away with someone else. And the only reason you're standing here now is that he didn't want you." She flinched as if I had hit her. I could. Because that was the truth, right? If Nathan had truly wanted to be with her, she would not be here. She would be with him instead. She was alone, and now she realized she had ruined her life for nothing. I sighed, suddenly fatigued. "Go home, Emily." Her lower lip twitched. "Ethan, go home." She looked at me, shivering slightly, and for a moment I feared she might fight more. Shout, beg, or cause a disturbance. But then she took a step back, and for the first time since this whole disaster began, I saw genuine defeat on her face. She turned and walked away without saying anything else. I closed the door. I locked it. And this time, I knew she wouldn't come back. Emily never returned. Not in that way, anyway. Oh, she just had to be in my life. We have children together, after all. But whatever twisted grasp she believed she held on me, gone. The divorce went through faster than I anticipated. She did not fight it. Did not even try to haggle for more than what was reasonable. Perhaps she understood she had no leverage. Perhaps she knew deep down that she had already lost. We settled on split custody. The kids would spend most of their time with me, but she would pick them up on weekends. I didn't fight it since I loathed her. They still needed a mother, even if she was a greedy, manipulative liar. For a while, she tried to appear normal, like we might be buddies. She seemed to be able to smile and ask me about my day when she picked up the kids. As if we could pretend she hadn't torn our world apart. I shut that down quickly. No small talk or fake politeness. Just business. The kids, the timetable, and nothing else. And she despised it. I could see it every time I looked into her eyes. That spark of frustration. The underlying bitterness. Because this was not how she intended the story to end. Emily believed she could cheat, lie, and humiliate me, while still keeping a piece of me. She was wrong. The final chat. She dropped off the kids one evening months later. As usual, I kept things brief. No eye contact or superfluous words. But as she stayed at the door, fidgeting uneasily, I realized she was ready to say something. I exhaled. "What, Emily?" She hesitated and then spoke gently, perhaps too softly. She asked, "Do you think we could have fixed it?" I stared at her. She didn't cry this time. There was no despair or anger, only emptiness. And this was the first time I saw it. She was not only sorry about losing me, she was saddened by the loss of her former self. The lady she saw in the mirror now. The one who had destroyed her own family for nothing. She loathed her. And I didn't feel sorry for her. Not even a little. I let the silence pass before responding. "No," I replied. "Since the moment you took that decision, you broke something that could not be repaired." She swallowed hard and nodded. Then she departed. And that? That was the last actual chat we ever had. Moving on. It took some time, but I eventually rebuilt. I focused on my children, on myself, and on regaining my happiness. For the first time in years, I wasn't walking around with that nagging sensation in my chest, the continual concern that something was wrong. I was free. Emily, she never truly recovered. I heard through the grapevine that she tried dating again, but nothing happened. Perhaps no one trusted her. Perhaps she didn't trust herself. Nathan never communicated with her again, not once. It turns out he was not searching for a relationship. He was seeking a thrill. In the second, things became more serious. He ran exactly as I told her he would. And that was the most poetic aspect of all. She gave up everything for a man who didn't even desire her. And me. I got my life back.